Here we are. Happy Friday. Welcome to day 77 of This Is Not Advice. You're here with me and Roy, and we're talking this week about management questions on how to manage people. And this is for all the managers out there. How do I keep a high performer on my team? Roy, how have you done it?
Don't. I mean, what I mean by that is, if your mentality is, I must keep this person at all costs, and the same could be true, by the way, of somebody who isn't a high performer but has some rare skill that you just feel you can't lose. If you are in a can't lose the person mentality, you will make bad choices. You'll be weird. You'll have strange dynamics on the team. So the first thing to do is just make sure you have, as a leader, a plan for if anybody, left. And they might leave because their family member gets sick, or God forbid something happens to them or something like that. So that's the first thing, because that gives you alternatives and an ability to think rationally about it. And then once you're in that place, I think the right mentality here is, and Reid Hoffman has written about this, is the tours of duty mentality, which is like people work for a bit and then, and you can satisfy them for a bit and then you have to redo it. There's like no static answer that works forever. And sometimes even that doesn't work. Sometimes an amazing person will just get an incredible offer. And one of the hard things about Silicon Valley, which took me a while to learn, is not to rely on loyalty as a reason why people will stay. Just because you did stuff for them in the past or were committed to them, in Silicon Valley, at least, most people, that's not why they choose to keep going. And so to me, the heart of the answer is, and we do this as early as, Min, in interviews, where it's like we ask somebody, what do you hope to get out of the next phase of your career? And then have a real dialogue with them about it. And some people want to have some experience they haven't had, or, put a badge on them of something that they can show the world they've accomplished. And then think to yourself, how can I make working with me right now the very best way in the world that person can accomplish that thing? And then design something bespoke around it. And ideally, it's something that serves your needs as a company, and you might have to take some risks. You might need to give them more responsibility than they wanted. And success to me looks like they're performing at their best. They feel like their needs are satisfied, and they remain for some period of time. And then you have to reinvent and do it constantly. So that's kind of how my mentality is. You're in a service leader mentality, deeply trying to understand what that person believes they want and give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things that you're hitting on there, which I've personally experienced as an IC, having had some really wonderful managers, which is like, one, understanding your teammates, your employees, like motivations, right? Like trying to, what is it that they really want, that they feel that they are not getting enough of, whether it is exposure to other kinds of teams or other projects, visibility, recognition, whatever. But that helps, I think, a lot in keeping a person around. And then the second one is, I don't know, your point about like you can't keep somebody around, and so you design it as tours of duty. I think a lot of high performers are like always thinking about their careers in that way, and so
Totally.
figuring out like designing that with them versus for them, I think, is also a really helpful way to think about, collaborating with them.
Yeah, I've had cases where somebody worked for me who was a high performer, and I introduced them to others to interview with them. And as you know, man, I'm like, my philosophy is you should be talking as much as you want with others all the time, unless you're in some closed industry where like just talking to them might explode, your reputation. But setting that special case aside, because you need to know what your options are, and it's a continuous process. And in a way, the answer to how do I keep somebody high performing is kind of the same as how do I attract somebody high performing, because keeping them is a constant process of drawing them to the challenges that you have to offer in your workplace. And, some people think of a workplace as like, it's a means to accomplish the company's end. Sometimes I think the company is a means to accomplish the end of keeping great people working with each other, that the company is the pretext that just keeps them working together. It's sort of this Richard Dawkins thing about, is it a library? Is a library a scholar's way of making another scholar, or is a scholar a library's way of making another library? And it's sort of like that. And I think maybe a question for us to do another day might be, when somebody does go, how do you handle it? Because I've seen very different things on that too. And I think that's an important question. But part of keeping somebody is preparing for them no longer being around.
I Okay, and you probably have all sorts of stories about that one.
Yeah. And, you know, my attitude's changed a lot. I used to see it as an affront on me when somebody left. And now I'm like, that's just stupid. Don't think that way. So
Well,
conversations for another day, but not on a Friday. I got to go put some bread in the oven as usual on Friday. Thank you, man. This was a really fun week.
It was. And next week we have some special guests joining us. And so stay tuned for more This Is Not Advice.
Yay. Thank you, man.
Bye.